Fashion Week is back. The prestigious one-day event is set to take place at Soweto Theatre on the 2nd of December.
Well, this year's event-themed trans-seasonal presentation showcase will see 7 designers showcasing 5 of their best outfits. For more on this event, we're joined now by Soweto Fashion Week founder Stephen Manzini, as well as designer Funeka Sukazi. Thank you so much to the both of you for joining us on the South African morning. Perhaps, Stephen, let's start off with you. You know, as soon as we talk here about Soweto Fashion Week, I keep thinking about those young designers that are not necessarily given platforms to showcase their talent. And here it is once again when we're saying, this is what the world has got to offer, and this is what you can also do, never mind for the talent, but also township economic development. How significant is this Fashion Week?
It's very significant in the fact that, you know, there's still a lot of work to be done. This is why, hence us coming back into the scene, because the township market fashion is not really being catered for. Yes, there are movements here or there, and we see ourselves as well as more than an event, because there's a lot of things that a lot of markets to. I mean, so many townships in South Africa. There's so much talent, and we want not only Soweto Fashion Week to be the place for them to showcase, but then for designers from all over the country. I mean, Khayelitsha already, we get calls from Khayelitsha, Guamashu, all those places. They've got talent, and they want that talent to be unearthed. And there's so much red tape, you know, in the fashion industry that we have to deal with, and they have to deal with. And we try and make it easier for them to put out their brand.
Funeka, you're a fashion designer, and I would imagine a fashion designer that wants to see her work in Milan, in London, in Paris, in New York. But there is, as Faith had mentioned, the township economy that needs to be boosted, and I would imagine that's why now you're also part of Soweto Fashion Week. The importance from a fashion designer's point of view of having an event like Soweto Fashion Week.
Hi guys. Yes, this event is very important, and I'm glad that we're relaunching. It's a beautiful platform where all the talent gets discovered, which I'm one of them from many years ago. And yes, I've traveled the world with Soweto Fashion Week, so it's a very important platform actually for the up-and-coming designers in the locations and rural areas and so on, like Stephen said.
Yeah. Stephen, I want us to speak a little bit about the value chain in this. You know, a lot of times people just think that when it comes to Fashion Week or fashion in itself, it all starts with and ends with the dressmaking. But there's an entire value chain that is actually involved in this, and possibly economic opportunities that we're not even seeing. I mean, I'm even looking at, for example, at the textile industry, where we've seen a decline in the South African context. How do we start exposing some of these designers, some of these aspirant designers, to not only to say it starts and stops with fashion, but actually there's a whole new, there's a whole ecosystem that is involved in this?
Okay, so our goal mainly is to showcase high fashion, right? But then, as you mentioned, that there's a value chain. So you have the seamstress, you have the tailors, you have the makeup artists, you have the hairstylists. All those people are involved in the making of projecting the garments. And then you have them working for the designer should the designer get orders after the show. So those are all benefits that whole value chain that keeps going around in circles. So that's what we uplift, that's what we strive to do. However, there's also a development side in terms of business side of fashion, having the designer understand the business side of things, you know, invoicing, you know, understanding that these are your costs, and then this is your capital, this is your profit, and then building your business from there and getting more funding for, you know, your machines and stuff like that. So it's a whole value chain whereby the local market is still growing. It hasn't arrived at that point yet. However, it's still growing, whereby obviously the goal is to take over. You know, you find in other countries that local market is very big. The value chain is so huge, whereby you can't, as an outsider designer, showcase or distribute in those areas. So that is something that we still need to hence the shows. Just create that awareness and keep growing the local market. I can give you, for example, Italy. You can't, as an outsider, come and showcase there because it's 100% local. You can try and showcase, but then you may not distribute, you may not take over. So we still have to get to that point, and hence movements such as this, projects such as this are very important in pushing that.
Funeka, Stephen said, there's a lot of red tape in the fashion industry. I mean, there's a lot of red tape in any industry. Any industry, it's made difficult for people that are starting out to get in. And I can imagine that you faced a number of challenges yourself. That's probably why we don't hear a lot about a number of fashion designers. You'll always hear about a Latuma Ngogolo or a Gert Johan Coetzee, but now there is also a Funeka Sugazi who has traveled with Soweto Fashion Week around the world. But what are some of the challenges you've faced in getting a foot into this industry?
Getting a foot in this industry, having to pay for certain platforms, like for instance, having to showcase somewhere and you must pay for it. The fundings, starting up capital in the fashion industry, we don't have it easy. Having to employ a number of people that are going to assist you build up a brand, those are very important steps in the fashion industry. And then knocking in different doors, trying to market your brand, it's not easy. Yeah.
I just wanted to expand a little bit on this, Stephen, especially when it comes to issues of formalization of the fashion industry within the township economy. A practical example, many people would say, Osmang Mang from 2 streets away who's going to be able to make you the dress for the wedding, right? And most of the time, even when it comes to negotiating prices and the likes, and it becomes just a very informal kind of agreement. And then sometimes Osmang Mang from 2 streets away does not deliver the item on time, and then the cycle continues, and then the bad rep starts and the like. But we need to do something about being able to formalize this sector of industry if we are to truly expand on developing the township. How is it that we can start spreading the message about how even designers can start treating themselves? Because it first starts off with how we treat each other and ourselves. How do they treat themselves as formal business entities so that they don't deliver 2 weeks later than they were supposed to deliver?
Okay, I think I think one of the most important factors that in formalizing, as you have mentioned, the fashion industry, partnering with retailers, it's very important because they already they do. That's why sometimes we do workshops whereby they can give advice and guidance to the designer to say, if you are in retail, if you want to formalize your brand, is how to go about it. And because they already have the system in place. The system is there. It's just that getting into that system is very difficult because us Mamang down the road is not supplying any store, and she doesn't understand, or from a business side, she probably was self-taught, maybe her grandparents taught her. It's something that she eats from every day. It's not that she hasn't been taught or shown the way, say, this is how you can create and build your brand forward beyond just, bread and butter. So vision also plays a part, saying, where do you want to take your brand as a fashion designer? Do you just want to stay down the street, or do you want to go further? So all those factors, they come into play, and that's where also we come in, say, when building up throughout the show, speaking to different parties to get involved, especially retail and the development agencies, to say, how can we grow further, so that even after the runway, they have people who are interested in taking their brands forward. So, yeah.
All right, so we'll leave it there with you, Stephen. Thank you so much for joining us, as well as you, Funeka. Of course, Stephen Manzini is the founder of Soweto Fashion Week, and Funeka Sugazi is a fashion designer, of course, involved in South African Fashion Week. It is happening on the 2nd of December at the Soweto Theatre.